Alrighty, everybody, and welcome to the very first video I'm going to be doing of building a character completely from scratch in real time for a video. So I've got my checklist or cheat sheet, fill in the blanks sheet, whatever you would want to call it, over here. I went ahead and I decided show a little support for the Ukrainians in the most prevalent unhelpful way possible. But what the hell, I'd go with a Ukrainian name on fantasynamegenerators.com, an excellent website if you are trying to come up with names for pretty much any reason, and they've got tons of other generators. It's a fabulous website. One of my go-tos anytime you know, because I don't like trying to come up with names, and there's loads of other things that you you just don't want to spend the time messing with it. So why torture yourself trying to force something out of your head when you can use a random generator and look through endless possibilities until you find something that you like, or whatever it is that sparks the inspiration that you need to come up with something. So anyway, I saw one here already that I like, this Sophia Ilivna Kaisel. That's how I'm pronouncing it. I don't know if that's correct, but since this is for like 5e, Dungeons and Dragons, it doesn't have to be perfect pronunciation anyway. And I just went with an age of 22 and uh, a girl, the 22-year-old girl, young woman, whatever. So we've got that. Now let's go ahead, and I've got a random picker here with all the classes in it. Let's just go ahead and spin and see what we're going to get here. And it landed on Paladin, okay. So our class is going to be Paladin. Let's spin it again and see if we get something compatible with Paladin as a possible multi-class. Fighter is definitely compatible, so we can go ahead and put Fighter in there. And there's lots of reasons why you might want to multi-class Paladin and Fighter together. Really to get the best features from Paladin, you only need, well, not the best features, but, its core features. You need about 6 levels, I think it is. That's when you get your aura. And Fighter is always a great class to pick up a couple of levels in, because you can get action surge and second wind, another a fighting style if you don't already have proficiencies in like armor and stuff. Just taking just one level of fighter will give you proficiency in shields, light armor, and medium armor, which is always a great dip. Not oh, you don't have to, but it is a great dip for spellcasters who, through a subclass, don't already have some form of armor, or don't want to rely on armor, mage armor. But yeah, Paladin Fighter, very compatible, very doable. So let's come over here, and I've got a generator for a character scrambler thing. That it's a classic archetypal, just plain overused characters and character concepts scrambled to provide fresh new ideas. This is on Seventh Sanctum, another excellent site for random generators, and this is just giving me my concept, since I'm kind of just doing this on the fly. So Hooker with no eccentric visionary doesn't really fit the Paladin. A wanderer with a unique gift who can't resist a party. A warrior woman who must destroy a dangerous magical artifact. Okay, we're getting somewhere there. That definitely fits. So we can go ahead and bring up like a little notepad thing over here. See if there's any more that pop out. No. Okay, no. Super sexy super spy who becomes a hero despite their reluctance and who discovers their heritage and destiny. That kind of sounds like yeah, Natasha Romanoff. Black Widow? Yeah. That could kind of work. Withdrawn yet somehow oddly attractive girl who awaits the perfect student. That doesn't work. Um, Rightful heir to the empire who has a tragedy in the past. That's a little too generic and too on the nose. Okay. So I think these two we can work with here. Go ahead and get this all so it's easy to see. And we are done with the random generators. I don't need that up. Alright, so we've got a name, we've got an age that I just randomly pulled out of my brain. We've got a class. Now, let's go ahead and, since this isn't what I would normally, this is for backstory, this is just going to be for various notations. For background, if we're going to do the super spy thing, that has an N in it, not a B, an N, there we go. That would be the spy slash criminal background. I'm not committed to this one yet. The first one is a pretty good character prompt. Let's just go with a girl who just becomes a hero despite her. Sick of that shit. Despite her reluctance and who discovers her heritage and destiny. I suppose the original prompt was not gender specific. So a girl who becomes a hero despite her reluctance discovers her heritage and destiny. So, these two together, the background could be pretty much anything. But if we want to talk about somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be a hero, but is going to discover her heritage and destiny, and there's a dangerous magical artifact involved that has to be destroyed, and it's her task to do so. So how about the Acolyte? Let me go ahead and bring up right quick D&D Beyond. Don't necessarily need it open for you to look at. I'm just going to look at all the backgrounds and see if there's anything else that pops out at me. Come on. You can do it. Loading, loading, loading. Yes, there you go. You can load now. Thank you very much. Alrighty. So let me just go into an existing character. I'm just going to look through the backgrounds right quick. So, Acolyte, spend your life in service of a temple to a specific god or pantheon of gods. Acts as a yada yada yada. So, Acolyte's more of a clerical background, which could kind of work. Cloistered scholar, someone who spent most of their life in a school, a student. There's also the sage background, which is similar. Let's see. La 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 la. I think I'm gonna go with cloistered scholar. Probably not spelling that right, but I do not care at the moment. I know that's not right. Scholar. Okay. Did I get cloistered? I think I actually spelled that correctly. Alright, so we've got a cloistered scholar background. That's going to give us proficiency in history. And we can choose another skill from Arcana, Nature, and Religion. Well, there's a dangerous artifact, so that immediately points to Arcana being involved in some way. And we can choose a couple of languages. That's never a bad thing to have a couple of extra languages. In fact, we can lean into that and use that as part of the character concept. A linguist, not a linguist, linguist. So we'll just go ahead and pick. And unfortunately, we've got fireworks going off outside. I doubt you could hear it, but it's. I don't know what the hell some of these people have been setting off, but some of this shit has been so goddamn loud. I thought that there was, like, a bomb going off outside, and I'm not exaggerating. It did not sound like a firework. No sparkly, twinkly, the when the shell goes off, the sounds that the sparky bits make. There wasn't any of that. It was just boom. Dwarven and halfling, and I haven't picked a race. Let's pick a race. So there's nothing about this that really makes me go, oh yeah, that race is perfect. It really could be just about anything. So let's just go ahead and go with Variant Human for the. Where are you? I went past it. It's just human, not variant. There we go, Variant Human. For the feet. So we can choose another language. Let's go with. Let's just go with Elvish for now. And our feat is going to be Linguist. So we can choose another 3 languages. And let's go with, let's say, Draconic, and let's go with Infernal. Obviously, the languages you would choose for this sort of character would depend entirely on the the campaign, the setting, what you're, you need to talk to your DM about that. Skills, we get another skill, and it can be anything. Fortunately, like bookbinding is not some. Well, okay, this doesn't include profession type skills. Okay. Let's see. Religion would make sense. So yeah, let's go with. And did I already put down another language? Yeah. So now we've got someone who can speak one, two, three, four, six different languages. Is a variant human, has proficiency history and arcana, and religion. So this is a learned person, and the cloistered scholar gives the library access ability, which again, if you're doing a campaign in a wilderness setting, this is not going to be the character you want to play. This is very much a character that you would want to play that in a campaign that's going to be spending at least, I would say, a substantial amount of time within urban environments. Would be very good in a campaign that involves a lot of kind of intrigue sort of stuff, or mystery. This is a character that really lends itself, I think, towards discovering information, obviously, but part of coming up with a character concept is knowing where it fits. And this is a sort of character that really would fit into certain campaigns way better than others. Of course, you could always do a character who has been forced way the hell out of their element. It could be a wilderness campaign, but in a world that has cities, but for some reason, this scholar, this young woman who is basically a linguist and learned of history, arcana, religion, these academic pursuits, has been forced into a situation way outside her ken knowledge. So let's go ahead and consider our ability scores right quick, because that can influence backstory. Let's just do strength, dex, con, intelligence, uh, wisdom, and charisma. Okay, so strength is going to be our dump. No, strength can't be our dump stat. This is a paladin. And we're just going to go with point buy. So that already means that this is, even though this is a young woman who's a scholar, she's an athletic scholar. She isn't just sitting and reading books all day. She gets out and does stuff. She's got some meat on her bones, so to speak. So we don't want strength to be too low, but we do want to give her some. This is a character that's going to want at least a little bit of spread to the stats. It's not optimal mechanics wise, but it does make sense. And we get ability score increases from variant human. We can increase two things by one. So I think we're going to go ahead and go 15 strength. I think I'm going to go ahead and go 13 con. She's not really going to need dexterity, but I don't want a penalty in it, so I'm going to go with 10 there. She's going to be intelligent, so I'm going to go ahead and put a 12 in that. Probably not very social, so I'm just going to, but again, just to avoid the penalty, I'm going to do a 10 in charisma. Possibly not very wise, but again, I don't like having the penalties. That leaves 3 points, so we can go ahead and bump con up to 14. And let's just go ahead and make intelligence 13. So that makes sense. She's smart. No, we have to have charisma. God damn it! I always forget the requirements. So we're gonna have to go ahead and drop that down. All right, yeah, we're gonna have to drop that down. We're gonna have to switch intelligence and charisma because for whatever reason, Paladin's ability score for spellcasting and stuff is charisma. I guess it's supposed to be because of their leadership skills or whatever. But, you know, just because you're a holy warrior, a righteous warrior with it's taken an oath or something, doesn't necessarily mean you're charismatic. It doesn't quite make sense to me, but whatever. It's the rules, so I'll go with it. Because I don't want to take Nox anywhere else. Would a knock to dexterity be so bad to go ahead and at least get a couple of points in intelligence? A scholar with an intelligence of 10. I suppose this is a character, it isn't so much about her being super smart as it is just learned, you know? So we can go with that. So, and then we can put our 2 points in strength to go ahead and bump that up to 16. And we might as well go ahead and throw a point in charisma to get it up to 14. And just because someone has a high charisma score does not necessarily mean that she isn't socially awkward. But of course, just because someone's a scholar doesn't mean they're socially awkward either. So, you know, you can play into stereotypes or you can go completely against them. That's, you know, everything is a valid way to do it. So let's consider before we get going what is going to be the subclass. So we're going to be, where are you, Paladin? And I'm not going to worry about the entire character build. That's not the point of this. I'm just getting this stuff out of the way at the beginning because it can, as I said earlier, it can heavily influence the character creation process, the backstory, and fleshing out a character. So we get, as a first level paladin, we get 2 more proficiencies. Athletics is an obvious one. So let's see, what would be the other one that would make sense? We've already got proficiency in religion. It's not showing up on here for some reason. Did I not actually select? I didn't actually select it. And language, I don't need to select that necessarily. So insight, intimidation, medicine, persuasion. Insight would make sense. Intimidation does not make sense. Medicine would make sense. Persuasion would make sense. So this is a point where we decide, do we want to do something based more for mechanic reasons or continue to lean into the background of being a scholar. Medicine makes a lot of sense there, although you're starting to spread yourself really thin on someone being scholarly at that point. So I think I'll go with persuasion. This is a girl that she knows how to, she's able to get what she wants. When she wants something, that she is able to persuade people. I'm gonna pick a fighting style here. So at first level is a paladin. Let's see, blessed warrior. Learn 2 cantrips. That would be useful and make sense. In fact, going with a background of being a scholar, knowing a couple of cantrips makes sense. A lot more sense than any of the other ones. So we got guidance, light, mending, resistance, sacred flame, spare the dying, thaumaturgy. Thaumaturgy makes sense. And I think I'm going to go with mending. Maybe not, guidance would be the concession to game mechanics, but I think since this is first level and we're talking about someone who's primarily been a scholar that has had some training and athletic, probably more from doing athletics as a standpoint rather than actual military training is where my mind is going now. I think having a couple of cantrips makes the most sense. And then the reason why I wanted to go ahead and get to the third level here is so we can plot a path for our sacred oath, our subclass, which of course it is an entirely valid way to play to not have any idea exactly what subclass you want to take unless you're doing cleric or sorcerer at the beginning. You can let gameplay determine that. That is a completely valid way to play. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go with picking one at the beginning and have at least a route that makes sense. So, Oath of the Watchers stands out to me. Yeah, Oath of the Watchers is kind of all about being a paladin that is focused on extraplanar invasion type stuff. You're guarding, you're watching the gates of reality itself, kind of. That kind of makes sense. Oath of Ancients, as a scholar, that makes sense. I really wish D&D Beyond would actually have a description of what the oaths are supposed to be about, their themes, because I don't have them all memorized, and being able to just look at them. Okay. Oath of the Ancients, Tenets of the Oath of the Ancients. I just looked this up. It's dnd5e.wiki.com. So, principles of good above any concerns of law or chaos. 4 central principles are simple. Through acts of mercy, kindness, and forgiveness, kindle the light of hope in the world, beating back despair. Okay, that doesn't fit at all. Is this actually from the... Um, its class features seem to have more to do with like druidic sorts of stuff. It doesn't fit. Devotion. Oath of Devotion Paladin. Okay, honesty, courage, compassion, honor, duty. See, the problem is I don't know. Okay, so player's handbook. Oath of Devotion binds a paladin to the loftiest ideals of justice, virtue, and order. Okay, yeah, no. Conquest doesn't make sense. Redemption. That could be interesting. There's definitely some possibilities there. In fact, I'm already considering an idea if this will use violence only as a last resort. Okay, dedicate themselves to this oath, believe that any person can be redeemed, that the path of benevolence and justice is one that anyone can walk. Oh, so it's not their own redemption, it's they believe in redeeming others, so that doesn't fit. Vengeance. Let's see. Of the Watchers binds paladins to protect mortal realms from the predations of extraplanar creatures, many of which can lay waste to mortal soldiers. Thus, the Watchers own their minds, spirits, and bodies to be the ultimate weapons against such threats. Okay. At least in my mind, that is the only one that really fits. So we're going to go with Oath of the Watchers. Because none of the other ones fit in with the scholar background stuff very well. You know, I mean, she could be a paladin that believes in redeeming people. And, you know, some of the others, I suppose you could, you know, shoehorn them in. But I think Watchers fits the best, especially with the concept of dangerous magical artifact. And discovering her heritage and destiny. So yeah, that's what we're gonna roll. That's what we're rolling with. So we have our mechanics stuff sorted pretty much. And we can kind of put this over to the side over here as a guiding point, and then this one we can have right here, the checklist itself. So we have a name, Sophia Elivna Kaisel. Might want to do something about that middle name. Just a little tip I would say is that if you have trouble pronouncing a name, everybody else is too. So, yeah, and you either need to be able to repeat the name enough times, learn it properly, and be able to speak it like it's actually your name when you're in character, trying to be in character, or at least speaking for the character. Or you need to go ahead and change something so you can pronounce it fairly easily. The whole Elivna. Uh, Go ahead and get rid of the middle name. Well, the middle part of the name. Sophia Kaisel. Ilna. It sounds a little too close to illness, but that works. Ilna. Sophia Ilna Kaisel. We've simplified it so it flows a lot easier and the much more natural speed. So we are Paladin. Oath of the Watchers. Fighter levels. Don't necessarily even need to take a subclass for fighter. Just taking a couple of levels. And you don't even need to multi-class to begin with. That's just a put a question mark on it. Appearance. So let's see. You don't have to come up with an appearance immediately. That can come later. But we've already got some things here. A girl who in her school robes appears, let's just say, nerdy. Or we can just go uh mousy. It's not a bad word. But outside, she is strong. Yes, she's strong, athletic, and what's something else that would. Strong, athletic. I can't think of any other words to add to that, so let's just go with strong and athletic. So we've got a girl who, in general, you would describe as being kind of mousy, not necessarily plain looking, but maybe that kind of cute younger sister kind of look. Think a young Courtney Cox, maybe. If you've ever seen the video for Dancing in the Dark, Courtney Cox in that music video, she's got kind of that look that I've got in my head. So we can just go with like short brown hair, pixie cut sort of look. Um, she has reading glasses, which means that she's a little, she's nearsighted. I think is the right one. She needs glasses for reading things that are up close and like small letters and stuff. She needs glasses for reading. Um, yeah, that can be added to later if you want to take this character concept and roll with it. But I think that gives us a general appearance. It puts an image in your head. You know, a girl has that kind of cute younger sister sort of look, short brown pixie cut, wears reading glasses. She has school robes on or loose fitting clothing or whatever. You're not going to be able to tell just how athletic and strong she is. But, she gets on the workout outfit suddenly, like, holy shit, she's an Amazon. Doesn't have to be an Amazon. She doesn't have to be 7 foot tall and like a Greek statue or anything like that. You could go for the you know actually that's exactly I was going to say you could go for the whole unassuming athlete. Someone you can't tell at a glance that they are very athletic. That's kind of what I've got in my head. So alignment, this one's always kind of tricky because we haven't really gotten any kind of backstory yet, so I'm going to leave that. Vocal characteristics and mannerisms don't have anything to lend to that yet, nor emotion. Family, there is a pretty good random generator that you can use to come up with a family, but we've got that whole discovers her heritage thing. So it might be a major cliche, but let's say that she's an orphan. And again, I was going to say paladins and clerics, but the problem with that is that not every setting, 5e, I'm not sure exactly when they started doing it, but they've kind of divorced paladins from clerics within the the Dungeons and Dragons mechanics system and kind of the meta of where they come from. They are still kind of a cleric fighter hybrid in terms of spell cast, the spells they cast, but it's still divine spell casting, but they don't have to be warriors of a god like they used to be. Because paladins, if you're not familiar with earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons, earlier editions, paladins were actually holy warriors. They were warriors of a specific god. So the oaths make them so that they don't have to be worshippers of a god that are warriors. They can be they are a warrior that is devoted to a cause, devoted to something. They have taken an oath. They are devoted to something. It does not necessarily have to be a deity. So, yeah, grew up in the school among paladins, and this gives me an idea for the backstory. So, uh, let's see, a teacher of something. Something to do with paladins. Um, Actually, yeah, language makes the most sense. This would explain why she has such an affinity for languages. At a university, that train scholars, clerics, scholars. I misspelled that again. I think clerics, paladins, and fighters, we'll say. So it's kind of a martial, a martial. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Oh man, that hurt. I don't know where that came from. So it's a university and military academy. So they train scholars, clerics, paladins, and fighters. So this is going to be, I would say rangers, but that's more nature magic influenced because of the whole like scouts, professional scouts. A scout is a rogue class, but they wouldn't teach rogue stuff at a place like this. And I don't think it would be the sort of place that would necessarily teach arcane magic. This is more like mundane learning and the realm of the cleric type stuff and paladins and martial pursuits. So this makes sense. Orphan taken in by a teacher of languages. Languages, not just language. And there is a proper word for that. Teacher of linguistics at a university and military academy that trains scholars, clerics, paladins, and fighters. So we now have her genesis point, so to speak. This is kind of our jumping off point for everything else we're going to come up with. Alrighty, so let's get into some backstory building here. So we know about this part of it. Spent a lot of time around um, uh, so scholars, athletes, people training to be military commanders. Learn from all of them. Uh, what kind of weapon do I think that she would gravitate towards? I don't think it'd be swords or anything that would cut. And not because of any, like, oh, clerics don't destroy, don't cut people, so much as maybe she's kind of squeamish. You know, she might, she's approaching all of this stuff more from a scholarly standpoint. She might be able to kick someone's ass, but she's never actually done it. She knows the theories behind fighting. She knows how to do movements, and she's sparred, but she's never actually had to fight. Um, Clubs are too inelegant. Well, not necessarily. Game mechanics wise, a club can be anything from uh, an actual big hunk of wood to, like martial arts weapons like sticks. The paired sticks and tonfa, like police clubs, that sort of thing. Um, I don't think pole arms fit. Let me go ahead and bring up a list of weapons that are in 5e. Because it's just I need something, to inspire me here. And this is a process. This is exactly the same sort of thing that you're going to be doing when you're trying to come up with a character. Let's just look at the basic weapons. Battle axe, no. No. Boomerang, crossbows. Again, I think this is the sort of thing because for some reason they completely got rid of the concept of only having proficiencies in certain weapons, except for very specific cases like racial proficiency bonuses or something. Basically, you're either proficient in simple weapons, martial weapons, or both. Actually, it's usually simple weapons or both simple and martial weapons. So, light hammer, the mace would kind of make sense. The maul, it's just a great big warhammer, basically. Type of warhammer. The Morning Star? No. I'm thinking that her weapon of choice is going to be the mace. So she spends almost as much time training in mace fighting and athletic training as reading books. So this gives us a general idea of her background, upbringing. Her prior occupation, student makes, a student. A student, assistant, instructor. That's her prior occupation that fits in with her cloistered scholar background neatly. But now let's get into. Now, see, you can go ahead and start putting in more backstory here, or you can come down to why adventure, major motivation, and put in some things here rather than as backstory stuff. Background, general backstory. So we can go ahead and do that. So we've got destroy a magic artifact, a dangerous magic artifact, and she's going to be becoming a hero, although reluctantly, and she's going to be discovering her heritage and destiny. So the question is, the dangerous magic artifact, is this something that my mind just goes to something that was stolen, kind of like Doctor Strange, and there's plenty of other examples of that in fiction. In fact, the reason why I was I was searching for something else at first was because it's kind of a cliche. The dangerous magic artifact has been stolen, and someone has to try to get it back, and for whatever reason, it's her. But it kind of makes sense, especially if she was the one who was kind of at fault for it being stolen. Yeah, that makes the most sense because, I mean, if this was like the higher ups at the school got information about a dangerous magic artifact, then again, actually, that would. Okay, that actually sparked something else. A somewhat different. Let's see. Higher ups at the academy Wires are getting in my way. Trying to type here. Go to hell. There we go. Higher ups in the academy. I've heard rumors about a dangerous artifact legend. Right, something that could cause untold devastation on the world. Okay, and again, this is something you would have to really work with your dungeon master with, because you're almost giving them a prompt for how to start the campaign at this point, which they might welcome or they might not. This could be, this could be easily the way that the entire campaign is started. Or it could be her personal quest. It could go either way. Um, as the most senior. Um, I always spell this wrong with the veracity. I'll just say truth. Right. So, as the most senior cadet at the school, she has been, because she isn't necessarily part of the academy. I mean, she has paladin training. She might not even formally be a paladin. She might actually be a student, a scholar of the university part, but has learned the paladin abilities through osmosis, basically by training with the paladins. In fact, I think that that's a really neat idea for part of the backstory. Is she's not even officially part of the Paladin Order. She's picked up. She's picked up those skills through training with the Paladins, so she's not even part of the Order. She is one, the only she's not part of the academy, so she wouldn't be a cadet. Uh, and she's the only university person with combat skills. So we've created this idea, this concept. Okay, she grew up at this university that is also includes or is adjacent to an academy that trains fighters and paladins. She's learned a lot of stuff from both from the fighters and paladins, enough that she would be considered a first level paladin as far as game mechanics is concerned. She's also a scholar particularly in the realm of linguistics. But she's not officially part of the Paladin Order. She is part of the university. She is a student, a senior student within this university. And higher ups, and I put it the academy, but no, we're going to stick to the university here. Higher ups in the university have gotten these rumors about a dangerous artifact, a legendary artifact. This could be, again, this is the sort of thing you would have to work with your dungeon master on because it would need to be something that would fit into what they're doing, the campaign that they are creating. But it could be an ancient demon or a demigod of some kind that could be trapped within this artifact. It could just be like, the Eye of Vecna sort of thing, or the Hand of Vecna, or the sort of Cass sort of thing, where you have an incredibly evil, sentient, magical artifact, a weapon, or something that is associated or connected to an evil deity or demigod or something. Endless possibilities. I mean, it could be a damn bomb. It doesn't, an artifact that could have the equivalent power to a nuclear weapon or something. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Again, you'd need to work with your dungeon master on exactly what the artifact is. It could also be multiple artifacts. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be a single artifact. It could be a whole set of artifacts. The sort of thing that instead of the one ring, it could be the the five rings is something completely different. But you could go with the idea that instead of the one ring of Lord of the Rings, it could be a whole set of rings. And anybody, each one has its own powers, but together, it'd kind of be going to Marvel again, more like the Infinity Stones. That individually these artifacts are powerful, but altogether they could wreak untold havoc. So, there's loads of possibilities there. So it's the university. The higher ups in the university have heard these rumors and they've been persistent. It's not just a singular thing. It's been very persistent, enough so that they feel like somebody needs to investigate this. So they have to send somebody. Maybe the people from the university and the people from the academy, even though they are connected and work together, maybe they don't exactly see eye to eye. But for whatever reason, the people in the university want to do their own investigation. Maybe it's just they want to make sure that these rumors aren't a wild goose chase before they get um, military involved. Paladin, this academy, or somebody that would normally be considered properly qualified involved. So they've selected this character, this Sophia, Sophia, because she's the most senior student at the school. They trust her. She has a family connection. The person who has raised her, or the family. It could be. Well, let's just go ahead and say. Um, let's say adopted father is the linguist. And her adopted mother is a. Let's go with history. That's another one of her proficiencies that would. So that makes sense. So her adopted father is a linguist, and her adopted mother a teacher of history. So that gives us another family point. So yeah, I think yeah, I was just thanks for thinking. Is there anything else that would need I would need to or that we could add to that? I don't think so. I think that gives us the motivation why she's going out into the world to be on an adventure, and a major motivation. We have a couple of an adopted mother and father for family that coming up with a backstory gave us that. We can go ahead and adjust what was already there. Friends, that can take a little while, so let's see what kind of alignment. I think she'd be a lawful character. She's growing up in a pretty ordered society, people that value order. And then again, as a scholar, she's not necessarily going to be. I feel that she's beholden to like the law, in necessarily. But yeah, let's just go with lawful good. And just go ahead and put in here what I already said. Grew up in an environment with people who value order. To say generally a good person. Again, the question I'm pondering to myself here is, would she really respect law? I say lawful good because I think she would be a person that, like the people in her environment, it's the way she's been taught, and I don't see her as a rebellious individual. If we were going with, coming up with something like this, but a rogue character, that would make a lot more sense. But I don't see her as being particularly rebellious. So, yeah, I don't know what else I would add to this necessarily. It's just that she's generally a good person and grew up in an environment with people who value order. I don't know what else I would add to that. Yeah, she may, should be a space there. She may not care much about the actual law. that's the sort of thing. If you were to play this character, you would kind of have to figure it out for yourself. Um, Again, the voice and her emotional mannerisms and stuff. There's nothing really popping out at me yet because you could go with the kind of shy, more solitary sort of character, but she could also be very outgoing. I don't think she'd be a partier. I think she's probably would be way too invested in her academic pursuits and uh, athletic pursuits, really, to get involved in partying. She may not even have any kind of romantic history. It depends on how dedicated to her pursuit. That could give us actually some ideas for quirks and personality traits. So yeah, very focused and dedicated to her pursuits. Never had any romantic attachments. So, uh, virgin. No, never kissed anybody. I don't know. Again, you'd have to adjust this for your own preferences when it comes to what kind of character you want to play. But not necessarily a shut-in, but just someone who just really, at least for for most of her life, she just really has not cared that much about social activities. So, yeah, this would be an interesting character to play because she can be somebody who is outgoing, charismatic, attractive, all the things you would expect from a higher charisma character, but due to this kind of thing where she just doesn't really care that much about social interaction, she might at times not be very good at it in certain respects and be ill equipped to deal with certain aspects of social interactions. Like, how would she respond? She's out on this adventure, they're staying at an inn. What does she do when someone starts hitting on her? Does she even recognize what that is? Does she get flustered? Does she get, oh, this is interesting, and just jump right into it? That would all be up to you, whoever, the person playing the character. But those are all things that you can ask yourself based off of what you come up with when you're doing one of these profile type things for a character. We've already covered where she learned her skills. Particular style of fighting, academic. She's never had any actual fighting experience. It's all been sparring and like training, like kata, you know, martial arts, stances and stuff. Um, Continuing on kind of the line of thought we've been having here, sees herself as a scholar and underestimates her physical abilities, false beliefs about herself. She does not see herself as a warrior, as someone who can have a fight and win. So she's got some hang-ups when it comes to that sort of thing. All of her fight training in her mind has just been as a way to stay fit, to be athletic, which she enjoys, and as an academic pursuit. So once she finds herself in an actual fight, she's going to have to learn that she is fully capable of crushing skulls and kicking ass, as the need may be. False beliefs about others. People. Right. It's not a belief, but she has not spent much time around people who are not scholars or part of the military academy. So her socialization with people has been very limited to certain groups, just these groups. Although obviously the type, the people who go to universities and the people who would go to military academy would be very diverse. It's still not a representation of the world and the people that are in it at large. It is still kind of uh, secular. No, that's not the right word. Just a microcosm, so to speak. So she might have difficulty in dealing with just normal, with the air quotes, people. The general population. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's think of a flaw. We've already actually, if we need any more, because she's already got some flaws here. The limited nature of her socialization with types of people that she is socialized with, her lack of socializing in in general. I mean, that's not necessarily a flaw. That depends on your point of view, but it does limit her ability to deal with certain situations. Um, her lack of confidence. I mean, and of course, to begin with, it wouldn't even be a lack of confidence. It's just that she's never actually considered using what she's learned for committing actual violence. Again, for her, at least up until she actually is going to have to get into a fight, it's always been an academic thing and basically just working out. So, honestly, at this point, I can't think of any other flaws that really pop out and come to mind beyond what we already have. Let's see. Favorite foods, drinks, substances. I don't think she would be into drinking or taking substances. Um, So it might view food as just being fuel and not care about it much. Kind of a, there's I think there's been some scientists that I've seen things about that kind of had that attitude towards food. So I could see that being a character trait. Again, something that could even be viewed as a flaw because a lot of people enjoy food and actually that pops into my head a possibility for a flaw. Yeah, they consider things not associated with her pursuits as frivolous. So any scholarly stuff, good. Learning how to stay, the military stuff, that's fine. But she might consider music, food, which is what made me think of this, gaming, having fun, socializing, romance and sex, anything that doesn't have something to do with scholarly pursuits are the things that she actually cares about the most. She might consider those things as frivolous and as a waste of time and have difficulty interacting with people who care about those things, pursue those things, want those things, desire those things, all that stuff. Someone who likes to have a drink and even get drunk, she would probably have problems dealing with that. Someone who, the if you go with a stereotypical horny bard, would probably have a lot of difficulty dealing with someone like that, especially if they keep trying to get in her pants, so to speak. So yeah. So let's go back up because that gives us some ideas for emotional mannerisms. Awkward is that's right. Not socially awkward, but um not a just limited socialization. She's not socially awkward, but does have limited experience with socialization in terms of uh, uh, trying to think of the right word for what I want to say. Sorry, I'm pausing for so long here. There's a word for what I want to say, and I just can't think of it. Uh, right. That that works. So she's not socially awkward. She can talk to people just fine. She can be charming, charismatic, and she gets along with people for the most part. But she does have limited experience with the variety of people that she's interacted with, and she has a kind of disregards a lot of the things that people consider important or desirable. So that gives us something for emotional mannerisms, just a little bit of help when it comes to how she deals with things emotionally and just interacts with people. Vocal characteristics and mannerisms. Might come across as shy at first, but isn't. So, soft spoken, prefers to listen and speak when she has something important to say. So, not so much characteristics and mannerisms, but just her tendencies with how she likes to communicate. And as I said in the other video, and I'll say it if you haven't seen any other videos I put out, this is only the second one I've put up like this on the channel. So if you haven't seen any of the other videos that the other one I have put up at this point or ones in the future, there are aspects of coming up with these characters and doing these builds that it really has to be you that comes up with it, and how a character talks is one of them. If you wanted to play this character, you still have to make it your own, and a part of that is that you are the one who's going to be giving this character a voice, whether you are in character or speaking for the character, depending on how your RPG play style is. Um, it really needs to be you that determines that and develops it through gameplay. You know, you have to figure out who the character is. You can only get so far coming up with a bio for them, a profile. So let's continue looking through here and just start filling in some of this stuff. Where she's from and how she feels about it. So yeah, she's from the university and she loves it. It's her home and really everything she knows. She has not spent much time outside of this place because, if you've ever seen a really big university and like a university town, because in my mind, this is probably a town that has this university and academy in it, and the entire town, in one way or another, is there to support these institutions. So this is kind of like I said, a microcosm, and it's the only thing she really knows. Religious affiliation? Possibly. Alrighty, so yeah. Possibly has some sort of a religious affiliation. As a paladin, it's always an option. The university would probably be the part that is also training clerics. Although it could actually be three institutions. It could be the military academy, university, and like a clerical. I'm not sure what the name would be for that. A clerical academy or college or something. And they're all kind of intertwined together anyway, but they are also separate institutions. So we can even go ahead and put that as part of her backstory. Um, and of course, you can always come up with names for these universe. I knew that didn't look right. Right, University, Clerical College, Military Academy. And she lives in a town that supports those institutions. Okay. Religious affiliation, so interest and hobby. Yeah, other than working out and training, none. I don't think she would have anything like that. Again, if we go with the idea that she's a sort of person who is very focused on her pursuits and considers everything else to be frivolous, she's not the kind of person who would really have any hobbies. Because she wouldn't see them as hobbies. It's actually something that she gives a shit about to a point that she pursues it as a possible focus of study. Because again, this is a character that I think she would might study military history and learn everything she possibly could about military history, but she would never see that as actually trying to become a general or a strategist or tactician or whatever. She would view it purely as an academic pursuit. She might be forced into a situation where she has to apply things rather than just learning about them, but at least until she's forced to go out into the world, everything she does is really from an academic standpoint. Secret. It's good to give a character a secret, but not every character needs one, and I don't think she's the type that would keep secrets. And I don't say that just because of the Paladin class. I just, personality wise, I don't think that she would do anything that she would need to keep secret, or that she would be, yeah, again, the type to try to keep a secret. In fact, she may not even be good at keeping secrets. Yeah, may be terrible at keeping a secret if needed, which is another possible flaw. Um, cool but friendly towards strangers. She's open and friendly to people, but there's still kind of that feeling of keeping everybody at arm's length. She I don't want to say that she looks at people like they are something to be studied, but I think that she wouldn't be the type of person that really is very good at making actual friends. And so she may not have any friends. So yeah, people who think of her as a friend, she may only consider people she knows. And what I mean by that is that there is a difference between knowing somebody and being friends with someone. It is a very strong, well, not necessarily, but there is a distinction there. You might know people that you work with, for example, but you wouldn't consider yourself to really to be friends with them. You might be friendly with them, but that isn't the same thing as being friends with them. Yeah, she may not have ever had anyone other than her parents that she really trusts. Yeah, maybe some of the other teachers and people she grew up with, so like trainers with the academy, that sort of thing. So, how would she behave with people that she actually trusts? This is true of everybody, so it is almost a redundant statement, but these are the only people that, these are the people that she's the most open, honest, and most relaxed around. Which is, again, that tends to just be true of everybody, but fear mental infirmity. She's afraid of something happening to her mind. You know, as someone who is all about academic pursuits, mental infirmity would be her primary fear. I think even physical injury is not something that would frighten her as much as something happening to her mind, her ability to learn. Hmm. Any events from childhood? I'm just going to say that this would have to be up to you. I can't think of anything right offhand. We've already kind of covered the sort of life that she's lived up until this theoretical campaign would start and she would become an adventurer. Um, yeah, there's nothing about what we've come up with so far that really, I think, lends itself to dramatic things happening in her childhood other than that she is an orphan. And I think that she would have been orphaned at a very young age, possibly baby. So I don't think that there would really be any trauma in how she was orphaned that she is aware of. how she was orphaned may have been incredibly traumatic in some way, or she might have just been given up. Again, that is really something that the dungeon master would need to determine because um, I don't think she would know. Yeah, no prior memory prior to being at the university because she was too young when whatever happened to make her an orphan happened. Okay, so is there what else is there? Actually, ideologies and personal beliefs. Um, Academic pursuits are the only thing worth doing. Would fit, definitely. So yeah, I think we're pretty much there. We have a pretty good starter profile for a character. We can also go ahead and throw in some GM candy here, although there's already, this is just notes from based on what we've already come up with. So, how did she become an orphan? Were her parents? I probably should actually make these questions instead of statements. Who were her parents? Since discovering her heritage is part of our prompt here, well, destiny is depends entirely on what happens in the campaign. But I just had a thought for something that she could actually have as a secret. Her one and only secret, trying to find out who she is, where she came from. Well, she knows who she is. Find out her heritage. Heritage, where she came from. Birth parents, etc., that sort of thing. So that is her one and only secret is that she has been trying to find out those things, and she does keep that a secret because it is, again, it really is not, although it is an academic curiosity involved, but it's the one thing that is really a personal pursuit. That it's not just about academics, it's about understanding herself, her heritage, and wanting to understand why she became an orphan in the first place. Because her adopted parents, I'm going to say, probably got her from an orphanage or, some other establishment that would have been caring for her up until they adopted her. I don't think this is like she was left on the steps of the university and because it's not an orphanage. Possibly that would be really weird though. I think she probably spent some time in an orphanage, but she was incredibly young, like a baby, and she was adopted as a baby. So she really has no idea at all of any of this. Not and orphan and orphan. So that's our first bit of GM candy. Um, are the artifacts real or not? What are they? How dangerous are they? Let's see. Was there anything else? So, yeah, as she develops her paladin abilities, will the order that she's learned from have any issue with someone who isn't actually a member doing so? Not something that she would have ever thought she needed to care about, but she might. Um, so yeah, I think there we go. And we can go ahead and put this over here as well. Kind of cut this and kind of add a little thing here. Oh, and just say character premise and add that in. So that is our basic premise behind the character. Then we have game mechanics stuff. Which we can just call game mechanics stuff. Let's see. And we can kind of take the linguist thing and put that into occupations because, like her father, she is a linguist. Linguist and translator. I think anybody who has learned a bunch of different languages, um, being a translator is a very natural sort of profession to take up, even if it's only occasional. So yeah, here we go. We have our character, and I did this in under 2 hours. So yeah, this is how I do it, and you can do it the same. I mean, not the exact same way, but you can uh, learn some ways to help your own character creation through this process. And of course, you can always go through and then flesh things out even more. But this is something that you can take to a dungeon master, work with your dungeon master, flesh it out through talking with the dungeon master, and end up with a very playable, interesting character for a campaign. Be it just a few levels or taking it all the way to level 20. If you added any fighter levels, I would say probably um, Probably Paladin 6, Fighter, because I personally, I hate missing out on the ability score bumps or feats, so I always try to take character multi-classes in blocks of 4, even if it isn't optimized necessarily. But I would say, um, yeah, Paladin 6, so you get your aura. Fighter 4, so you get a subclass, Arcane or Eldritch Knight for some additional spell slots for smiting would be good. And the 4th level in Fighter to pick up that ability score increase or feat, and then switching back to Paladin. Or you can just go Paladin 6 Fighter the rest of the way, or pick up 4 levels of Fighter, and then maybe take some levels of. See, Sorcerer is, for me, isn't a very good one because to me, a Sorcerer shouldn't be a multi-class. You you could start as a Sorcerer, but multi-classing into Sorcerer, to me, it doesn't fit the theme and flavor of what a Sorcerer is supposed to be. But if you wanted to multi-class into Sorcerer for the extra spell slots, you could always discuss that as a future possibility with your dungeon master. Sorry if this is clipping. I'm having some trouble keeping my headphones. There we go. And the mic is attached to the headphones headset. But you could, yeah, discuss the idea with your DM, and they could set up a scenario where your character is going to have an experience like maybe drinking a potion, an interaction with a witch, or something where your sorcerer abilities could be awakened. You could always go with a Paladin Warlock, and go Hexblade, and your DM could um, come up with possibly a sentient, ancient, one of the artifacts, in fact. Um, right there. So yeah, this lends itself to there being more than one artifact. There could be a whole group of artifacts, and they aren't necessarily inherently evil. They're just powerful, and again, individually they're powerful, and together they could allow someone who shouldn't have any of them to do things that would be incredibly terrible, or even people that are well intentioned could end up doing horrible things. But she could find herself in possession of one of these artifacts and become a Hexblade Warlock, Pal Lock character, which is an extremely strong multi-class. But if you were going to do that, if you were going to go ahead and do the Pal Lock, then I would say then you need to go ahead and go. You would need to adjust your level and ability scores for that. If you wanted to go Pal Lock, then you only need a 13 in strength to multiclass in the first place, and then you put the rest in charisma. Because the strength of the Pal Lock build is that the Hexblade Warlock is able to use their charisma as their attack and damage stat. So you can just drop the strength to 13 to be able to multiclass, and then just crank your charisma up as far as possible. So yeah, there's some definite options there for multiclassing. Let's go and hit it. Fighter maybe. And she could have some sort of interaction with a dragon. She could find out that that one of her ancestors was a dragon. Um, yeah, there's lots of different ways. Again, the sorcerer to me feels like it should be a class that it's your first pick, but there's really no reason why you couldn't be playing a character that has natural magical abilities awakened or given to them outside of it being a warlock. Again, she could make a deal with a witch or some other powerful entity that in exchange for a favor, which is a great plot hook, or a service rendered, she's granted these sorceress abilities. That and really, as a paladin, you're going to be mostly using them for smiting, but it also adds utility to a character and, you know, more versatility. So yeah, Eldritch Knight for more spell slots. Only difficulty there is that the Eldritch Knight uses intelligence as their spellcasting stat, but if you're just using the slots for either enhancing yourself, shield, or smites, then that doesn't matter. So yeah, that's some possibilities for multiclassing. We've gone into ability score stuff. Go ahead as just another note here if you're following along. And, I could always put this up on my Patreon page, which, is a freebie. So you could download this and um, look at it for yourself. Um, yeah, need to be switching our strength and charisma starting stats around. And I'd also say that you don't need strength higher than 13, so you could go ahead and put both of your points into charisma would be perfectly viable as a variant human to get it to um, let's see, 17, 17 starting charisma. And instead of taking the linguist feat, you could take a feat that gives you an extra point of charisma and have a starting charisma of 18. I think I like the linguist feat for the extra languages and the theme and flavor of the character, though. But that depends on whether you want to lean more into the backstory and the flavor and the theme and the characterization of the character, or if you want to make concessions for game mechanics. Because you have to keep in mind, starting as a paladin, you would not actually be able to fully get your paladin warlock abilities as a Heckblade until your second level. Actually, it might not even be the second level, it might be the third. Let me see. When do you take your warlock patron type immediately as a warlock? I think you do. I don't have all this stuff 100% memorized. So let's see. Warlock, add. Yeah, your patron you pick right off the bat. So Hexblade, Hex Warrior, gives you some extra proficiencies if you don't have them. Yeah, there it is. I didn't read far enough in Hex Warrior that so you would only need one level necessarily of Warlock in order to do that. Again, it's not optimized, but when I do multi-classing for character builds, I prefer to do it as blocks of 4, just so you always get that extra feat or the ability score bump. But yeah, I mean, you could have this online second level, and then just take a second level of Paladin for Smite. And I mean, if you want to go min max, then you would probably go Paladin 1 or 2 to get your smites, then Warlock Hexblade, so you can have Charisma as your. Or you could even start as a Warlock Hexblade, but that totally screws up the entire character build. But you could have the character for the first level or two, strip Paladin, and then have your dungeon master introduce this artifact that attaches itself to her, which allows her to multiclass into Hexblade, and then at third level you have Smite and Charisma is your combat stat. And then from there, again, if you're min-maxing at that point, all you're missing is more spell slots, so going into Fighter, Eldritch Knight, although you wouldn't get that till 3 levels there. So it's either go back to Paladin and just fill it out Paladin, or if you want some other abilities, you can go Fighter, Eldritch Knight, or you could, again, multiclass into Sorcerer to just get even more spell slots to use. That depends on how you want to play the character and what sort of build, the long-term build you have in mind would be. And again, gameplay should also inform your decisions about the class, any multiclassing you do, and what you do when you level up. But yeah, for this character, a pretty good as a PAL lock. It lends itself real well to that. So yeah, but yeah, that covers everything. We've created the character's backstory, a pretty good profile and general backstory. You can flesh it out more and work with your DM to flesh it out more and come up with things that the DM needs to be involved in. There's some possibilities there for multi-classing, including one of the strongest multi-classes in the entire game of Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. The Powlock is extremely strong as a multi-class. Just because of the ability to use Charisma as both your combat stat and spellcasting stat. It's extremely strong. And, if you go 2, 3, 4 levels of Warlock, you're picking up your Eldritch Invocations. You can have your. I'm blanking on the name of the cantrip. Eldritch Blast. For ranged attacks. So you have a ranged option and you have a melee option. So yeah, there's lots of possibilities, lots of ways you could go with the character. You could just do straight paladin, you could do some multiclass into just fighter and get some Eldritch Knight for more spell slots if you want to go that way, or just a couple of levels of fighter gives you a lot of really useful features. You could, again, sorcerer for more spell slots, do the Pal Lock build. There's lots of options there that really fit the character concept and the premise of the warrior woman who must destroy a dangerous magical artifact. Although at this point, I'm leaning more towards artifacts because I kind of like that idea of the kind of the Infinity Stones sort of. Maybe it's a magical weapon that can take any form, so she can still use it as a mace, which is her preferred weapon we established, and a set of armor. Perhaps this is, and we can, go ahead and I'll write some of this stuff down because it's all good stuff for the, uh, good thing, for the character build and stuff that the DM can use. So, let's go ahead and say it's a set of magic armor, magic weapon, and shield. So, sorry about that. Amulet and a no, that's three things. That would be three things that someone could attune to. There we go. It's a set of magic armor and pieces that would have to be assembled before it could actually be used and attuned to a magic weapon and a magic shield. Okay, powerful ancient artifacts of a legendary demigod warrior. And anybody that attunes to all three of them would basically have the powers of this demigod warrior. Or damn close to it. Are they sentient? All of that sort of stuff, the actual mechanics and details of these things would have to be left to the dungeon master, but that's what makes this GM or DM candy. It's something that they can use to create plot hooks and whatever, world building, anything they want, really. Don't need that many spaces. Okay. So yeah, that is the character. So yes, everybody, there you go. There you have it. And I will put this up on my Patreon pay as a freebie that you can download if you want. Put a link in the description. And if you stuck with me this far, thank you very much. I know I have a tendency to ramble and pause and stuff, but this video in the series of videos that's going to be the start of, this is what it's about, is the process of coming up with a character profile. From scratch, start to finish, in a single setting. So, again, if you have stuck with me this far, thank you very much. I hope you found this useful, interesting, in some way entertaining perhaps. And if you really would like to use this character, again, by all means, I'm going to put it on my Patreon. Or I also have a Wix website I could put it on. Maybe I'll put it there. Either one. I'll put a link in the description where you can snag this. And then you can do whatever the hell you want with it, of course. If you do decide to use the character and you start playing it in a campaign, I'd love to hear about it. So let me know in the comments. And of course, for the logarithms, for the YouTube background bullshit, don't forget to like, subscribe. Subscribing is so you know when I put up new videos, and the notification bell is so you actually get told when new videos go live. And if, liking helps with the logarithms, the interactivity, viewing help is the main thing there, and leaving comments helps a lot too. So let me know what you think about this character. Would you play this character? Um, you know, any thoughts, comments you might have, leave a comment. Share the video if you think if you are part of any online communities that you think might be interested in it, that sort of thing. And one more time, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.